So we're going to jump right into the next talk, and then we'll have a break right after this. So if you haven't been in a place with a strong extension program, or you don't know about extension, this is what the business college at universities call consulting, that the ag schools at land-grant universities do for free. They just provide free information, free services, low-cost services in some cases. Matt Jones is a horticulture extension agent here in Chatham County in North Carolina. He's been there since 2018, been an extension agent since 2015. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world because you are fielding questions and things from all kinds of sources. Matt is working with home gardeners, commercial nurseries, landscape professionals, coordinating a master gardener program in Chatham County, which really means he has to kind of be a little bit of everything for everybody when it comes to horticulture. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Matt to talk to you about some gardening resources from NC State Extension.
Thank you, Mark.
Come on in.
I want to give you an overview of some of the resources that we have available, and it's just, we'll be barely getting through the top of the iceberg. There's so much out there, and as Bree was talking, I kept remembering, oh, I should have mentioned that, So, but I hope at the very least this will provide a kind of a starting point for where you can branch off to additional resources. And it's often said in extension, we're the best kept secret, and that's not good. We've been around in modern form since about 1914, arguably back to 1862. When, as the U.S. was expanding, Congress recognized the need to create universities that focused on agriculture and engineering. So they tempted the state governments with land and money to form universities focused on ag and engineering, but as part of that deal, they had to create an entire arm of the university devoted to reaching the people of the community in those states. So extension is essentially a little bit of the land-grant universities and a little bit of NC State and NC A&T State in your local county government. It consists of educators like myself. We get the cool name of agent, but we're essentially field educators, field faculty without any of the faculty benefits, but and also it includes researchers on campus. So the idealized model is that there are professors on campus within different departments that have applied research programs that help address problems, and we help convey that to the public. But we also reach out to the public and try to direct research needs and interests back up to the university. And so those researchers on campus who have extension appointments are called specialists. So part of what I'll do today is introduce you to some of the specialists that are relevant to home gardening. And it also consists of many volunteers. 4-H is part of extension. There's a lot of 4-H volunteers. There's also the Extension Master Gardener Volunteer Program. So among the first resources that I want to introduce you to is a human one. And Extension Master Gardener volunteers are volunteer educators primarily for extension in the local county systems. So we have about 75 counties that have Extension Master Gardener programs. Obviously the best one is in Chatham County, but the others are good too. And the idea is that if you come across a new pest in your garden, you're like, what is that? Is it even a pest? Could it be a beneficial insect? Or if you're seeing unusual symptoms on your landscape plants or vegetable garden, reach out to the Extension Master Gardener volunteers in your county, and they'll help assess that for you. And when they can't answer a question, it gets shunted back up to the agent. And so, and if I can't answer it, we take it to the university. And we have a whole diagnostic clinic even that we can submit samples to help. So not only do they help answer questions, but they are co-instructors. I'm expanding my own program to have many of the Master Gardener volunteers do the instruction at different sites and at our county center. We often have demonstration gardens where you can learn about different planting techniques and just visit casually or passively, or often integrated in different workshops. Reach out to your local extensions, county, master gardener volunteers, and they'll help you address questions on a one-on-one basis. Now, the first faculty person I want to introduce you to is Dr. Lucy Bradley. She's a professor in the Department of Horticultural Science, but also is a specialist for consumer and community horticulture. And so her program area focuses just on you all, on home gardening and community gardening. In extension, we have several aggregated websites called portals. I think they're called topics now, but we have so many of them it can be hard to keep track of what's what. So I'm going to introduce you to a few of those too. And among the portals that Dr. Bradley helps administer is the Extension Gardener portal. And Extension Gardener is sort of the public-facing brand of all the NC State horticulture material. So this is where you can find two of the things I'm going to talk about in the next two slides, the Extension Gardener Handbook and the Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox, but also a lot of other great resources. There are several online non-credit classes. There are cross-links to the gardening portal, which I'll talk about later, that has a lot of curated resources on gardening. So this is kind of a good home base. But the two master resources I want you to, if you walk out here today using these two resources, I want you to use these two. One of them is the Extension Gardener Handbook. So this began life as the older Master Gardener Handbook. It was a spiral-bound beast of a book. And then Dr. Bradley, with some grant money and many collaborators, helped completely rewrite that book, and the decision was made to make this public. There was no gatekeeping that you had to be a master gardener to get access to this material. So this is in one form, it is a 768-page, 21-chapter, 10 dependencies hardback textbook on gardening in North Carolina. But the whole thing is online for free. So you can go and access all the material. I'll talk about the other forms in a second, but all the material is online and available to everybody for free. So if as a baseline, especially if you're new here, I want you to, this is going to be in your library in some form, like start here. They have many chapters on edibles, so vegetable gardening, organic gardening, small fruits, tree fruits. There's a chapter on natives. There's a chapter on plant propagation, on soils, on botany. Botany is the best chapter. And also on insects, diseases, weeds, diagnostics. There's even a whole chapter on container gardening, as Bree referred to. That may be a good place to start if you're interested in doing containers. So the book comes in 3 different forms. Most commonly, people access the online version that's accessible through just your web browser on your phone or on your laptop, tablet, etc. And that has all the same material as the textbook does. So everything is there. But some other benefits of the free online version is that there are links to other extension resources. There's, if there are unusual terms, especially in the botany chapter, there's links to a glossary. There are embedded videos, many photos. You can see, like in the vegetable gardening chapter, there's a customized planting calendars for each of the 3 physiographic regions of North Carolina. So it's all there. It's make use of that. If you're like me and you like books, and you have a problem with books, too many, there's also a hardback version you can get from UNC Press, and it's beautiful. It's a big, lovely textbook, well bound, etc. And there's also an online interactive version of the book. This is meant to be sort of guided self-study and or integrated into Extension Master Gardener training. So there are like quizzes and other activities that help encourage you to learn, and that's provided through Top Hat. So I'm going to jump up and down and emphasize again, like start here, amazing resource, everyone in the state should be using it. And in fact, it's won awards, and other states are now buying this from us. They're tweaking it a bit, but it's still our material, base of our material. So really, really good work on Dr. Bradley and her collaborators. Another important resource is the NC State Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox. This is our database of plants, both horticultural plants and native plants and weeds, etc., cultivated crops. This got a big overhaul in the last 5 or 6 years too. And it's got both botanical and horticultural information. So if you wanted to know detailed information about describing the flower form it has, it's in here. If you want to know the cultural conditions, what its light requirements, drainage requirements, etc. That's all there. There are also a lot of great photos. Sometimes they take a while to load, so be patient. But and in some cases, part of a lot of agents, as part of the COVID, what we had to do at home in 2020 was make some videos on some of these plants. Some of those are hilarious in a delightfully cringy way, because it's hard to film on your iPad by yourself. Okay, but the best video is obviously Joe Piley, because that's the best native plant ever. So look it up. Also, though, if you have a garden that you want to display, or if you're at a master gardener program or whatever, there's a QR code for every plant entry. So you could make a little label on your plants and have a QR code on it, and it takes you directly to more information about that species. So check that out. Next up is the gardening portal. So whereas Extension Gardener there's Extension Gardener branded resources, the gardening portal is where Lucy has put a lot of curated pages of extension information. Again, the challenge with part of the problem with Extension is our brand name is kind of clumsy. Like, when I have an elevator speech of what it is, half the time it's just saying the title, North Carolina Cooperative Extension. But the other issue is that there's so much out there, it's hard to find and navigate and weed through. So this is a great way to kind of start to find some material that might be above and beyond what's in the handbook on certain topics. She's got several great pages on natives, on bird-friendly gardening, on butterfly-friendly gardening, those sorts of things. So this is a good general hub too, and you also get updates on important issues, articles on that main page on the front. And I have anything else to say here? Yeah, that's mainly it. So next specialist I want to introduce you to is Dr. Barb Fair. And she's also a professor in the Department of Horticultural Science, and is our landscape horticulture specialist. So she's kind of our tree guru on campus. And she, and I think some others, some of the resources they developed include like this holy quaternary of pruning fact sheets. These provide detailed information about everything involved in pruning. We get a lot of pruning questions, and if I answer a question from someone, I always send them these 4 fact sheets just so they have context. So there's information on why prune at all, do we need to prune, what were the reasons for pruning, some cool toys you can have to help you prune, specific information on how the different types of pruning cuts, for example, with lots of detailed photographic images. But the best of all to me is the how to prune specific plants. What a name for a publication, right? And so in this fact sheet, there is a list of species grouped by kind of their function lands, or if they're a deciduous shrub, an evergreen shrub, trees, etc. And the species are listed in alphabetical order by Latin name, as God intended. And so you learn your Latin, and then there's information about like when does it tend to flower in old growth or new growth, what are its landscape functions and aesthetic functions. But the right side of the matrix has information on what kind of cuts to make and when, if needed. So make use of that. There's abbreviations essentially in each of those cells, and they'll refer to those. So if you see an R, or let's see, yeah, let's say you see an R for removal cut, and it's like, what does that mean? Well, you go back to the general pruning techniques fact sheet to learn how to do a reduction cut, for example. And then Dr. Fair also has a video series focusing on trees and shrubs. And those are on planting, pruning, and fertility. So on these links, you can get back to her website, and it'll say just resources, and it will include these YouTube videos. So there's a series, say, on planting. How do you plant a bulb and burlap tree versus a containerized tree, for example? What are the different pruning cuts to make that I referred to, secondary, reduction, rejuvenation, etc. And then information on fertilizing trees if needed. Hopefully based on what the soil test is, if at all. But as Bree referred to, just leave the leaves. That will help a lot for these woody plants. Anyway, so these are underutilized, so I want to make them famous. Please go back and watch these before you do anything silly and plant a tree improperly. And then Dr. Fair, along with some other specialists, I'll just introduce you to a few real quick. So we have Dr. Steve Frank. He's a landscape entomologist. Matt Martin is a turf agent out in the coastal plain. And then Dr. Grady Miller is one of our turf professors on turf cultivation and breeding. And then Joe Neal is our weed specialist. He's fabulous too. So anyway, they together came up with this landscape management calendar. This was kind of legendary for a time in extension, then it kind of disappeared. It was out of date, so they revised it recently, and it's really good. So this will highlight different tasks through the year in different types of plants, and different types of tasks on different types of plants. And then any extension office should have these publications printed for you already. So these are those you can walk in and just grab a nice glossy, pretty brochure, but you can get them online too. So Dr. Chris Moorman, who is a professor, I think now in College of Natural Resources, but he did write a few publications focused on gardening that have tips on maximizing wildlife benefits in your landscape, because that is where kind of we want to move in that direction, to not only something that is pretty and reliable, but also has some ecological function, and not just a sterile landscape of tall fescue and crepe myrtles. The Carrie special, you know. No offense, Carrie's lovely. How am I doing? Okay. It's very lovely, in fact. Anyway, so these are just great. You can walk into an extension office and just grab these if their agent is doing what they're supposed to do and ordering them on time. Sometimes I know there's someone who doesn't. And then there's a newer one on the far right that's called fire-resistant landscaping. So with climate change, we might see some increasing variability and susceptibility to wildfires. And so this is a good overview of landscape management techniques, especially if you live in a slightly more wooded lot or something, or areas that may be more susceptible. What things can you do to reduce the risk of a wildfire near your home? Then we are well known for this, no accounting for taste, but turf can have its place in a sustainable landscape if it's used for recreation or line of sight or other things like that, access. Before it was cool, NC State had a website about turf, and that started out as Turf File. So this has been around a long time. It's been updated. It's kind of the master resource. I know when I was working in Boston, people knew about the NC State Turf File site for their information. So here you can find information about turf care, and we'll talk about sustainable care in a second. But among the things that I think are useful for newcomers is the lawn maintenance calendars, so that we have a customized calendar for each of the common lawn types that talk about when optimal fertilization, mowing recommendations, weed management if necessary, that sort of thing. And Dr. Miller also wrote an organic lawn care guide. So there is increasing demand both from the public to landscapers to find ways to maybe more sustainably manage their lawns. And the emphasis in this manual is that a healthy lawn is resistant to pests and diseases. So really, that may minimize the need for excessive inputs. And also just being able to accept that your front yard doesn't have to be a golf course or a putting green, okay? There can be diversity in it, it's okay. But there's a specific guide on that that is quite good. Okay, so Again, tip of the iceberg. Oh, I forgot to mention a second ago. Speaking of calendars, sorry. I did say that. Never mind. Should have made a slide on. I just did a vegetable class Thursday night, and we do have custom vegetable planting calendars to refer to. So use that, not the back of the seed packet. But there's much more than this, and there's, while a lot of the material could be cross-referenced in the handbook, or should be and is, sometimes you want to look for a specific topic. And there is we store all of our fact sheets, which is extension speak for a short publication on a specific topic, at this website, the extension content.ces.ncsu.edu. So here you can sort the fact sheets by category or by department within the College of Ag, and you can also just, there's a search bar in the upper right. So if you want to find something North Carolina specific about a certain topic, you can try here. Not every extension system has a publication on every possible thing in every possible state. So we don't have a publication on everything, but it's worth trying here. You can just search extension more broadly in a Google search by adding "ext" to your Google query, or adding the name of the university to it. So if you're searching, say, doveweed, which is a lawn, Murdania, a kind of cool weed, but add Clemson to that search, you'll get a whole fact sheet just on Murdania. Or Clemson, for example, has a great fact sheet on adjusting the pH of your soil. That's maybe a little bit better than ours. So things like that can be more specific. And Clemson's got a lot of great material too, I should say, on specific crop vegetable crops that are quite good. So anyway, if we don't have it here, search by adding "ext" to your Google search, and you'll get research-based, science-based information that isn't from gardeningbs.com, right? Where was I going with this? I had it. Never mind. Could have said worse. So that is part of what makes us different than elsewhere, is that we're trying to find and share this science-based information. So if you can't find it, call me, or not everyone call me. Call your local agent. 800 a month is plenty. Call your local agent. They can help find it for you, or answer that for you, help synthesize it for you. We're training master gardeners on a regular basis to help to be your conduit for this information. So in the last few minutes, in my previous life, I was more in botany and horticulture, so I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me. And so I'm going to share some botany resources, especially if you're new, to get to know the flora of the local area more. And I have a lot of fun with this, so I'm going to share just a few of these as well. So this is Dr. Alexander Krings. He's he is the director of the NC State Herbarium, which is the collection of preserved plants used for understanding local floras and for conservation research. And he developed, with some other folks in some cases, online taxonomic keys. And they're all freely available, and we'll look at a few of those now. And I should say too that yes, our AI-based photographic app's improving. Yes, I guess, but they're still not highly accurate. So if you're getting down to species, there's just some things, if you're really nerdy about it and really want to know what something is, you have to look at really subtle characters that can't be picked up in a photograph necessarily. So I strongly support keeping up the old school way to identify plants, and now you do that through dichotomous keys. So if you want to nerd out and want to try this, he's got keys on trees, either Piedmont, that are easy to use. There's one on winter twigs. Isn't that cool? I teach a class on this every January. I love it so much. There's nothing cooler than sticks. So please come to that if you're into this. But it's kind of a fun activity and help you learn the flora in other parts of the year. Bark is not actually a very good identifier for a lot of plants. It's too variable with age and within and among species, and it's hard to describe botanically. But occasionally there are some conspicuous differences in species that can help with that. So there's that guide if you want. I'll be giving a talk on kind of fern biology at the Botanic Garden in September. And we'll be talking about this fern ID guide too. So if you see ferns in your woodlands or you find their biology and morphology especially interesting, check that out and then go to the JCRA's fern propagation class in October. And then we also have a new printable, an online guide for tree identification that came out recently. And it's really good. It's, in fact, I think some of the keys are a bit easier to use than even Dr. Krings's keys. Now the downside is that it has fewer species, but certainly the most common keys are here. And especially if you're involved in education or want to teach others about sort of tree ID, this is a great publication to start with. And then this is Dr. Steph Jeffries. She is in the College of Natural Resources and teaches a dendrology class every year. And this is a class that all forestry majors have to take, that a lot of horticulture students take. And during COVID, it's a lot harder to do tree ID when you can't leave your house. And so she and her undergrad students developed a series of videos that highlight some of the key field characters for tree ID that are really, really good. So check those out. I have those here. And then finally, the JCRA website is also an excellent resource for a lot of things. So one, they've got a great photo database that I've cribbed from before. And all the variety trial reports are here, and then especially important, all the videos from their program. Many of the videos of their programs are posted here too. So please check those out. Lots of different series, lots of great information for you to, and also, of course, you can sign up for other workshops, etc. So I think I've made up with Bree's time. So with that, thank you, and we'll take questions later. So.